Welcome back, everybody. The last couple of videos were, I guess, kind of interesting, kind of boring for me. We just set up a bunch of log services, but now our log manager is set up, it's ready to go, and we are ready to use it in our actual app. So the next couple of videos are now just going to be implementing all of these analytics. So before we get into this, I do want to firstly point out that we are using the same events for logging and crashing and analytics. Very well, there are apps where you would have separate services for each of these rather than combining them all into one log manager. I combine them all. I find it much easier, much faster to build when I combine them all. But there are many apps, probably most apps, where the analytics and the logging and the crashing are all separate dependencies. But we're going to keep them all together. It's going to help us move faster. And now we're ready to start using them. Second thing I'm going to note here is that there are different mentalities when you go and you create analytics. And the question is, what do we want to track in our app? And the first time I built an app, I thought, well, let me go and add the big things. So if I looked at the screen, I would think, well, maybe I want an analytic when a user clicks a cell. And then maybe I want an analytic when a user clicks on this cell. And then maybe I want an analytic when a user, completes a message. But the reality is, now that I've been building apps for a while, I've worked for some startups, I've seen it in practice at companies. The reality is, we basically want to know every little thing that is happening in our app. And I think this is super surprising for an indie developer, somebody who's never done it for a company. But basically every single thing in our code, we are going to tag up and add an analytic. I am very much in the mindset of, I would rather add extra analytics, have too many, and then have to take some out, rather than not having enough. I would rather be in a case where we have the analytics and we don't need them, rather than we don't have the analytics and we wish we had them. So I'm going to start tagging up everything, and this is exactly what I would do if this was actually my app. I will just have a final caveat, as I was explaining in the Mixpanel video. In Mixpanel, you do pay per event. So there's definitely a scenario where some teams might want to maybe tag everything and then roll back some of the analytics. And so one easy example of how we could do that would be for like the Mixpanel service, you could add some logic into your event to basically not track any event that was maybe of type info. And so that scenario is actually how we're going to start this video. We're going to not send the info events to our Firebase and our Mixpanel services. So we'll send analytics, warnings, and severe, but info is going to be stuff that's really just for us, just for the console. So let's jump into the Firebase analytics, and we have our track event. Let's do a guard event dot type is not equal to info, else return. And I'll copy that, and let's go into the Mixpanel as well. And same exact thing, we'll do make sure the event type is not the info. All right, the first thing that I want to track when we go to any screen is the screen appearing and disappearing. So if I click onto this screen, I want to have an event that says chat appeared. If I click away, I want an event that says chat disappeared. And in SwiftUI, obviously we have on appear and on disappear. Let's go into our app view where we have our fake events, and let's delete all of our fake events because we don't need those. So what I want to do is track a log manager dot track event, and we'll have a screen event when it appears, and we're also going to have a dot on disappear where we'll track another event. We'll do track an event, and then we'll pass in the disappear event. Now, we've been building SwiftUI long enough. We know that if we're going to be repeating these modifiers a bunch, we should make a reusable modifier to do this. So I'm going to cut this, and let's create a new custom modifier. So in our components section, we have view modifiers. Let's right click, create a new empty file, and this will be called the appear analytics view modifier. Let's go in here, we'll import a SwiftUI, and let's create a struct. I'll paste this below for a second. Appear analytics view modifier will be a view modifier. Every view modifier needs a body. We'll return the content as is with our two events. Let's pull in our manager. So we'll have the environment at the log manager.self, private var log manager. So now we can call these, and now we need our events. So let's go ahead and create an enum called event that conforms to our loggable event protocol. We're gonna have two cases, appear and disappear. And let's go ahead and conform to the protocol. So the protocol is going to need event name, parameters, and type. So for the name, let's switch on self. Let's do screen name underscore appear. And I'm going to make this one line just so that it's easier to read. And here I'll tab over and we'll make this return screen name underscore appear. When we start creating these analytics, I'm going to use this format where I just make these one line. It's a little unconventional, but I like having my analytic names all lined up perfectly in line because it helps me avoid typos. If this screen was called screen name and I accidentally called this one screen name, I would very easily be able to tell the difference. Just a personal preference. For the parameters, we're not going to have any, so we'll just go ahead and return nil. Both of these will be .analytic event types. All right, so now obviously we don't want to call this screen name, so we'll pass in a name of type string. We'll do that for both of them. So here we'll say appear let name, and I'll copy and paste that here. And now we'll take the name and inject that into the string. I'll do it here as well. So if I pass in a value for like explore, it will say explore underscore appear. All right. So when we call these, this one is going to be event.appear, and we'll need a name. So when we create our view modifier, let's pass in a name of type string, and then we will pass the name here, and this will be event.disappear. We'll pass in the name as well. Let's create an extension of view so that we can actually more easily access this now. So just like all of our other view modifiers, it'll be a function. We'll call it screen appear analytics, and it will return us some view. We'll return the view with a modifier called appear analytics modifier. And then that modifier requires a name, so we'll pass in a name here as well of type string. I'll inject this here. Since there's only one modifier on this view, the compiler can imply that we are returning self, so I can delete this and make it one line. Cool. So now that we have this, let's jump back to our app view, and I should now be able to call .screen appear with the app view is what I'll call this screen. We're going to now use this on basically all of the screens. Every time we go to any screen, we're going to put a screen appear analytics. All right, now it's time to actually start running through all of the analytics. And again, we're going to tag up everything. I would rather have too many than too little. In my mind, it is better to have a situation where I need to reduce the analytics rather than a situation where the app is out, users are using it, and we forgot to add analytics. And then, your product manager and your team gets aggravated because we have this successful app, but we don't have the data and we don't know what actions to take next because we don't have the analytics. From one dev to another, I would recommend just tag everything. And it'll only become a problem if it gets too expensive, which if it's a startup and it's a new app, it's not going to get too expensive for a very long time. What we're going to do is all of our analytics are going to be in obviously all of our views. So in our core section here, and over the next couple videos, however fast that we can get it done, we're just going to run through all of these folders and tag them up. So we're going to start at the top here with our app view, and we don't really have that much to tag in this screen here. We do have this function called check user status. And so if we check down here in our check user status, we have a print statement. So we're going to get rid of all of our print statements basically in our code base. So users authenticated. So let's go ahead and make this two screens here. On the right, I'll add another editor. And on the right, I'm going to maintain our events for this screen. So obviously we're going to get rid of all of these cases. The first case we're going to do here is a user already authenticated. So I'm going to say, I'll call this the existing auth, user already existed. All right, I'll add in a case here for the name. So I'm going to name all of these events because they're on this same screen, the app view screen. I'm going to name all of these prefixed with app view. So app view appear, app view action, app view click, app view existing off is what we're going to call this one. We'll have our default be return nil, and our default case down here will be having everything be an analytic. All right, let's get rid of this print statement. We'll replace it with a log manager dot track event dot existing off. Fail to log in. We're going to do another one. This will be existing off fail. I will copy and paste this existing auth fail. And let's do existing auth underscore fail. So let's change this one to existing auth start. And this will be existing auth start as well. So we'll make this start. And then the failure, because we're in an error, we should be able to pass in the error of type error. So here we'll call log manager a dot track event dot existing auth fail, pass in the error. We'll replace this with existing auth start. So because this one is a failure, we get this error. So here, let's say for the case of existing auth fail, let error, and we'll return the error. And we want to convert the error into a dictionary. So I want to now here call error.event parameters like we've done for all of our other types. So an error by default obviously doesn't have this. So just like we've done with all of our others where we created some dictionary, let's jump in. On the left, I'm going to open up the navigator. Let's go to our extensions folder. Let's extend error. So we'll right click new empty file, error plus ext. Let's import foundation, and then let's create a quick extension of error. Create a variable called event parameters of type dictionary of string any, and we'll just return literally a string that says error underscore description, and I'll make the value the localized description of the error. So now I can come in here and call error.event parameters. On the left, let's go back. And so now we can log this error, and this will call check user status again. That's fine. Now we have the else statement, sign in anonymously. So in most of our situations, when we have do catch statements, there's basically three events that we want to track. We want to track the start of the event, so before it succeeds or fails. Then we want to track the success, and then we want to track the failure. So you're going to see this pattern a lot as we go through all of our do catches and all of our screens. Start, success, and fail. Let's come in here. We'll have a case. We'll say, this is for the logging in anonymously. We'll say anon. I'll call it anon for anonymous. Anon auth start. Let's do anon auth success and anon auth fail. And the failure, again, will also pass in the error here. So now for our event names, let's go ahead and line these up. Copy, paste this a couple times. This one's going to be the start, the success, and the fail. I'll line these up again. And so app view, existing auth, this one will be anonymous auth. And this will be start, copy, paste, paste. This one will be success, and this one will be fail. We can get the same error here. So here we'll say dot anon fail, let error. And then for the type, these are actually pretty bad failures. Logging into the user manager should never happen. Anonymously authenticating a user failing should never really happen. So for both of these cases, I'm going to return a severe. So if this happens a lot in my code, I can get these in my Crashlytics service so that we can see how often these pretty crucial events are happening in our code base. Let's add them real quick. So up here, we'll have a log manager dot anonymous start. Here we have the success. So anon success. I'll delete this extra line of code here. And then here we have our error. So I will copy and paste it here. And we'll say anon fail, pass in the error. All right. And I think that's it for this view. We didn't have that many things on this screen, but we tagged up our check user status. So now every time the user opens the app, we'll know in our analytics if it was an existing user, if we created an anonymous authentication, if there was a problem, and we'll be able to debug pretty easily. Coming down the list here. So let's see, we have our app view is done. Category list view is next. I'm just going to go alphabetical just so that we make sure that we don't miss any of these. All right, I'll X out of the editor on the right, and we have our avatar view, and we should be able to do it without even looking at the canvas. So the first thing, every time we go to a screen, we want to add our screen appear analytics. I'll call this one the category list view. And now we're gonna have to create a event. So back in our app view, this is the typical event that we're gonna have in all of our screens. So I'm gonna copy it and let's paste it here. And let's just create a template event for a second. We'll call this my event. And we'll have my event. We'll have screen view underscore my event. I'll delete these, tab this over a little bit. The default for all events will have a nil value, and the default for type will always be analytic. Now I'm going to highlight this, right click, and create a code snippet. I'll call this a loggable event template. And for the completion, I'll type in create event. If I type create event, it should now give us our template. So let's do done. Now let's delete this. So when we go to a new screen, I'll say create event, and we'll get our default event popping in here. All right, first snippet done. We're going to do some more snippets later, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But right now, let's get going. We got our screen appear. We got our event ready. What events are happening on this screen? Load avatars. So when we see this, we should immediately think start, success, fail. Those are the three analytics. And then here, I want one analytic for on avatar pressed. So coming up here, we're going to have a case. Let's do load avatars start, copy, paste, paste. Load avatars success, load avatars fail. Copy paste this here. This will be a category list view underscore load avatar underscore start. Load avatars, sorry. I'll copy, paste it twice. We'll have the success, we'll have the failure. This one will convert to success, and this one will convert to failure. We're also going to have case avatar pressed. And when we pass in the avatar, let's also pass in the avatar that we're pressing on so that we can get the event parameters from that avatar model. So we'll pass in here an avatar of type avatar model. Let's copy and paste one more on avatar pressed. This will be underscore avatar underscore pressed. I am realizing that I forgot to mention that this is the best solution I've found to naming conventions for analytics. There's definitely many different schools of thought. This is not obviously camel case. This is not lower score undercase. This is just the format that I have come to after building plenty of apps where it's basically like the screen name underscore either the function or the high level event and then the status of it. So I don't think this is like a rocket science formula, but we want to make sure that our analytics are unique. So when you see this in the Mixpanel console later, we know exactly what it is. We don't have to go and guess what this analytic event is actually doing. Anyway, the failure also needs an error of type error. So we know when we have an error, we're going to say .fail, let error. We'll return the error.event parameters. Similarly, if we have the avatar press, we'll say let avatar, and we'll be able to return the avatar.event parameters. I guess we don't have them yet. So if you remember on all of our data models, our user model, we created these event parameter dictionaries. I'm going to copy it. Let's go to our avatar model. And we must have set this up before we made all of our event parameters. So let's add event parameters into here as well. Paste it in, and let's change out the user underscore to avatar underscore. Copy and paste this a bunch of times. All right, avatar ID, name, character option dot raw value, character action.raw value, character location.raw value, profile image name, not that we really need to send it, but why not? Author ID, date created, and then one more for click count. Just to iterate what we are doing here, right? We're creating these event parameter dictionaries so that every time we have an analytic for an avatar, we are automatically going to send the avatar ID, the avatar name, all this extra data. It sounds like it's a lot of data, but the alternative, what happens is you might send the event for avatar pressed, and then you forget to send the parameters. And now the people on your team that are looking at the events are like, well, I know that avatar pressed happened 10 times, but which avatars were they clicking on? And so now we need the data for avatar pressed happened on this avatar 6 times. And so I have found that having these event parameter dictionaries and then just throwing the dictionary into all of the events just makes it a really seamless experience to always have all of your data in your analytics services. So that's what we're doing here. I know it's probably way more than we need, but if you were to start doing this, I promise you, your company and your team is going to love you because they're going to have more data to work with than they ever have before. And that's going to be a huge win for the company to move fast and make strategic decisions. So when in doubt, just add event parameters and pass them all in. Lastly, the failure type, let's go ahead and make this a .fail, and let's return severe so we can see how many times the loading fails on this screen. We're going to call log manager. We need to pull in our log manager from the top, a log manager. And now let's add our events here. So log manager track event.load start. Here we're going to do load success, and then here we'll do load fail and we'll pass in the error. Here we're going to do .avatar pressed, pass in the avatar. Sweet. All right, app view done, category list view done. The next one's going to be our chat. Our chat is our biggest screen and it's the most work that we have to do. So I'm going to end the video here. We're going to do that in the next video. As we move forward, I'm going to do a couple more screens with you guys, and then I'll challenge you guys to go ahead and try to do some yourself as well. Let's end the video with a Option Command C. Let's call this a feature, and let's say add analytics. Let's say progress 1 for now. Then the next commit will be progress 2, progress 3, etc. Let's go ahead and stage it. Let's commit it, push it up to GitHub, and I'll see y'all in the next video.